The budget on your phone right now is a document about a person who doesn't exist. Not because you're irresponsible, not because you lack discipline, because every budgeting app, every personal finance bestseller, and every spreadsheet template was designed by people who fundamentally misread the problem. You've done the budget multiple times, probably. Real numbers, honest categories, a genuine plan. It held for 11 days, maybe 14, maybe a remarkable 3 weeks once, which you still think about with a kind of quiet pride. And then Thursday happened, and the whole thing dissolved not in one dramatic moment, but in 4 or 5 small, completely reasonable decisions that your bank statement now calls a pattern. The fitness app you still pay for calls it lack of consistency. The personal finance subreddit calls it weak willpower. The budgeting industry, a $5 billion operation built almost entirely on this misdiagnosis, calls it poor financial literacy. Here's what none of them call it: a neuroscience problem. And here's what makes that matter today. The drain on your savings account is happening right now. Not when you make big financial decisions, you're careful there. It's happening in the small moments, and those small moments were designed. Your brain runs 2 financial operating systems simultaneously. One is deliberate, future-focused, and absolutely wrote that budget with the best of intentions. The other is 40,000 years old, operates in pure survival logic, and has been quietly draining your savings in micro-moments so ordinary you don't even register them as financial decisions. And the reason conventional budgeting advice keeps failing you is simple. It was written for the first system, deployed against a world engineered by people who deeply understand the second. Let's talk about what the drain actually looks like, because it's not what most people imagine. It's not the big purchases, those you think about. The drain is the checkout screen with one saved click between you and a transaction. It's the push notification informing you a sale ends in 3 hours. It's the specific moment. And this is the part nobody talks about. When you open your banking app, see your balance lower than you expected, feel that familiar tightening in your chest, and within 60 minutes make a small, impulsive purchase that had nothing to do with the item and everything to do with making the tightening stop. That tightening in your chest has a name. It's a cortisol spike. And cortisol does one thing neurologically that the personal finance industry has been ignoring for 30 years. It temporarily suppresses the prefrontal cortex, the exact region of your brain responsible for planning, delayed gratification, and impulse control. You are being financially drained in the moments your brain is least equipped to defend itself. Here's the biology your savings app won't explain to you. Your prefrontal cortex, the slow, deliberate part that wrote the budget, needs 2 things to function: time and low stress. It understands compound interest. It cares about your future self. It is genuinely an excellent financial planner when conditions allow. Your amygdala, the ancient, fast part, runs on completely different software. It doesn't speak in numbers or categories or percentages. It speaks in one binary signal: threat or relief, on a loop that has never once paused since your earliest ancestor decided whether to run from something large and hungry. The moment it perceives stress of any kind, a hard week, a tight paycheck, a flash sale countdown, even just checking your account balance on a bad Tuesday, it takes over. It suppresses the prefrontal cortex the way a power outage shuts down a computer, suddenly, completely, without warning or negotiation. And in that window, every unplanned dollar that leaves your account is not a failure of character. It is your survival brain executing a perfectly rational transaction, trading future stability for present relief. It is giving itself the only medicine it knows. The problem is not that the medicine is wrong. The problem is that the pharmacy is everywhere, open 24 hours, and specifically positioned to appear in your field of vision at the exact moment you need it most. Now here is where the story turns strange and important. The retailers know this. Not theoretically, operationally. One-click purchasing was not invented for your convenience. It was invented to close the transaction before your prefrontal cortex comes back online. The 3-hour flash sale was not invented because the deal genuinely expires. It was invented because urgency is a cortisol trigger, and cortisol is the key that locks your rational brain in a room with no windows. The personalized recommendation, the autoplay, the saved payment details, the notification timed for 7 p.m. after a long workday, these are not features. They are cortisol delivery mechanisms dressed as services. Every unplanned purchase you've made in the last 6 months was a moment when someone else's financial architecture was more sophisticated than your savings plan. And here's the loop that compounds the damage. Financial stress raises cortisol. Cortisol impairs decision-making. Impaired decision-making increases impulse spending. Impulse spending increases financial stress, which raises cortisol, which impairs decision-making. You are not undisciplined. You are caught in a biological feedback loop that personal finance advice was never designed to address. Because the people selling you better budgets make money when you come back next year with the same problem. Here is the uncomfortable arithmetic of that loop. Every year you attempt harder to stick to a budget through willpower, you are investing energy in a fight the prefrontal cortex is biologically designed to lose when stress is present. The harder you're weak, the worse your savings habits. The worse your savings, the more financial stress. The more financial stress, the harder the next week. You can run that loop for a decade, and the only thing that changes is how tired you become of being genuinely surprised by your own bank statement. Willpower is not the solution. It is the decoy. And the industry selling you willpower-based budgeting tools has a significant financial interest in you continuing to believe that. Here is what actually works. Not a better budget. A savings architecture built around your survival brain's actual operating system, not against it. Your survival brain does not respond to plans. It responds to defaults. It doesn't understand future outcomes. It understands what is available right now, in its immediate environment. It doesn't protect abstract goals named after retirement accounts. It protects what it already perceives as its own. And once you understand that, the design of a savings system that actually holds becomes obvious. 3 principles, deceptively simple, structurally non-negotiable. First, money your survival brain cannot see, it cannot spend. Automatic transfers out of your checking account, scheduled for the morning of payday, before you've registered the balance, before the week has had time to stress you, before any notification has arrived with a cortisol payload. You stop saving what remains after spending. You start spending what remains after saving. Your survival brain adjusts to what it has, not to what you plan to have. This is not budgeting. This is environment design. There's a difference. Second, add friction precisely where commerce removed it. Delete saved payment information from every retail account. Remove shopping applications from your phone's home screen. Enable purchase confirmations on every card. These are not restrictions. They are the 30-second gap that allows your prefrontal cortex to come back online before the transaction finalizes. Commerce spent billions engineering frictionless purchasing. You need approximately 4 minutes to reverse it. The asymmetry is absurd. Use it. Third, and this is the one people consistently underestimate, label your savings accounts with concrete visceral names tied to specific things your survival brain can actually picture. Not emergency fund, something like 6 months of not panicking. Not retirement savings. Try the version of me who doesn't have to take work I hate. Abstract financial goals live only in the prefrontal cortex. Your survival brain does not protect abstractions. It protects things it can feel. Name the accounts accordingly, and watch how differently you respond when something tries to pull money from them. What this actually looks like in practice is not a tighter budget. It looks like a morning when money moved automatically before you checked your phone. It looks like a checkout process that takes 30 seconds longer than yesterday. It looks like a savings account named after something real. It is not discipline. It is architecture. And architecture doesn't require you to be stronger than the system, only smarter about where the walls go. Your survival brain is not your enemy. It kept your ancestors alive through conditions that would break most modern software. It will absolutely respond to the right environment. But it has never once, in 40,000 years, complied with a spreadsheet. The personal finance industry will keep selling you better plans for a brain that doesn't process plans. Retailers will keep building better cortisol triggers for a brain that can't resist cortisol triggers. The people quietly building real savings accounts right now, the ones who are actually ahead, are not the ones with the strongest willpower. They're the ones who stopped arguing with biology and started designing around it instead. And that distinction, between fighting your brain and engineering around it, is worth more than every budgeting app currently installed on your phone.